This video is brought to you by YTAndrewPaul Tech Repairs. If you have a console, laptop, computer or Macbook in need of repair in the UK or the EU, then have a look in the description below this video for details on how to contact us in order to organise your repair.
Right, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's video. And today we're going to be taking a look at this Xbox One with a completely stuffed HDMI port. And now then, there is a story behind this one. I was called last week from a repair shop which had been attempting to remove and replace a HDMI port on this Xbox One motherboard. And apparently as the port tried to drop, it swung back and it's ended up pulling quite a few traces, if not all of them, out from the board. And as you can see, it's now stuck at a rather funny angle, and it does indeed have all the traces for the board stuck to the bottom of it. And yes, it's not particularly great, so let's have a look. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be able to get this on the camera very well for you, but you can kind of see there. I mean, we're tilting the board up now, and there you can see, oh yeah, there they are, all the pins all stuck to the back side of the port. The port itself is indeed still soldered to the board. I don't think we're going to be able to get this in focus for, oh, maybe we can. So you can see there, look, the front end is completely out, but the bottom end is stuck completely in. And like we said before, all the pins are now stuck to the bottom side of the port. Not good. So this is going to be a delicate one. So we don't really want to go ripping this port out. We want to try and save that if we can. So if we can. So let's go take a look then and see what we can do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put some flux on this board. We're definitely going to need flux. That much is for certain. So, and plenty of it if we can. So I'm going to apply some flux to the rear of the port and the pins, because we're going to try and loosen those. And then we're going to put some flux on the legs that are still attached to the rear of the board. There's nothing in the front. The actual front pins are well clear, so yes, I'm not entirely sure how it happened. I'll take them at their word that indeed it dropped out the front and the back still clung to. But it's not one I've seen personally. But I'll try and get some fume extraction on. So this is gonna be tricky. This is gonna be, yeah, this is gonna be a pain. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a hold of the port with some tweezers. Oh well, actually with these needle nose pliers. And I'm not going to pull this, because if I pull this, this is just going to make it worse, but I'm going to go behind the port. Fume extraction has gone walkies. Whoa, stinks. Right. Try again. I mean, the port itself is well beyond any redemption, so I'm not really bothered about melting the port. But it's coming. Okay, there we go. Woohoo! Port is off. Alright then. I mean, thankfully, you know, when they realised what was happening, they didn't just continue to pull it. They've stopped short of pulling everything out, so that's something, I guess. So let's take a look then and see what we've got left here. Okay, so there is the end of. Let's just move the board out of the way for a sec. There's the end of one pad stuck to the bottom of the port. Here's some zoom so you can see what's going off. So yeah, so these are the pins. So you can see there that there is one pad, unfortunately, that hasn't quite made it. And then, just realised there's some crap on my tweezers. It's like thermal paste. Okay, so that particular leg there has the remnants of a pad. Unfortunately, that one's not made it, but the others are all clean enough. You can see the actual port itself was, yeah, not looking too good beforehand, so it's definitely had an accident. So, alright then, let's see what we can do with this board, if anything. So we can see that these pins now are all stuck up in the air. So I'm going to try really delicately flattening them back down. Yes, so it looks like we've got a couple of missing ones. That one there. So the third pin in appears to be missing. 4, 5, 6 seems to be missing. 7 I think still in the board. Yeah. Looks like a painful one. So, I mean, unfortunately I haven't got any PCB epoxy on me. If I had, I would try to bond these back in. I haven't, unfortunately. So I'm going to try something slightly different. Whether it will work or not, I honestly don't know. We're going to try. I'm going to try and salvage what's left of these pins. If it doesn't work, then, you know, it doesn't work, but it's going to be a fairly big rebuilding job if not. So let's just see if we can save it. So what I intend to do here is just drop a port in over the top. So I've got flux on there now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of heat to the flux. Okay, and that's going to go somewhat tacky. So I'm going to use that as a sort of cheat, if you like, to get this thing to try and stick. Like I say, I have no idea if this is going to work. I really do need to pick some PCB epoxy up. If I can get some, brilliant. I do have a part number for some, which I managed to find on the net the other day. So it's just a case of going on and ordering some. In the meantime, what I actually intend to do is to try and use that flux to tack these pins roughly in place. Drop a new port on over the top, if I can. Try and solder them in and then use the conformal coat just to secure them a little bit better than what they are. and that's certainly going to make this repair a little bit more feasible and a little bit on the cheaper side, because at the moment, if I have to fully rebuild this port, it's going to be fairly expensive. And this is a business-to-business repair. Now, I'm sure that, unfortunately for this company who sent it here, they can't really give it back to the customer like it is. So they've kind of got no real alternative other than to get it fixed. But at the same time, I recognise the fact that, you know, you don't really want to bust the bank on that sort of thing. So this is about sort of making this repair as is feasible as is possible, really. So we're going to do our best today. So we're just going to pop some leaded solder down into the holes. Some more fume extraction. As I say, I have absolutely no idea if this is going to work, if this is even going to be a starter of an idea. It's not something I've ever tried before. I do seem fairly well stuck in, so that's a bonus, I suppose. If we're going for positives in this scenario, then that's somewhat of a positive. Most of those pads do look to have some sort of solder on them. Now, obviously, what I want to know is if this is even going to be worthwhile even trying. So I'm going to change the tip on my soldering iron. Going to give it a clean. Okay. Now then, I'm going to put some more flux on this header. I'll be gentle with it. You'll notice I've got the board facing with the ports towards me. That's so that when I sort of work on these and I'm brushing them with the flux, you'll notice that I'm brushing them forward and not against where they're broken. So I'm not tugging on them any more than they already have been. What I want to know is how salvageable, if at all, these are going to prove to be. So I'm just trying to work the missing pads at the moment, just see if we can get, or the ones we suspect may be missing. Okay, so there only looks to be one that's actually missing, and that's the one that was indeed stuck to the leg of the old port. They don't seem to move around too much, so the one that's missing is pin 6. So they don't seem to be moving around too much in there. They seem to be fairly stable, so this may work. Let's see. I'm going to try it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that this thing's just going to have to get ripped apart. So it's not something I've ever tried before. This is all sort of trying to wing it, really. Nice shiny new HDMI port. Meet bent up crappy old motherboard. Now then, I'm just going to make sure that these pins on this port are completely straight before we go any further with this, because we're not going to be able to move them about once it's in the board. Alright, okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's see if this experiment will work. So I'm not holding my breath, but so we're just going to heat the area. Help if I had hold of the port properly, wouldn't it? I'll pop a dab of flux on there. Go back in. Right, I have no idea how that will have worked. Just making sure the port is flat. It is in the front, it's not in the rear. So that's usually what happens. So what we'll do now is try and get you underneath the camera again. So just heating around the rear of the port. And we push down. And okay, so the port is now completely flat in the board. Let's take a look and see how everything's looking. See if this has worked as well as I'd hoped, or Well, it's not looking bad. It's not looking bad, you know. So let's take a look and see what we've got. So we've got that pad looks intact, 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 looks intact. This one's missing, but this one was stuck to the leg of the old port. That one looks intact, that one looks intact, that one looks intact. These look a little bit iffy. I think that one is okay, just about. You can sort of see its trace is out of the board, but the pin is there. This one looks to be fairly stricken. I'm not sure there's much there to be had with that one. Or is it? Is it just... I can't actually feel it. So that one may be okay. Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, that could have certainly gone a lot worse, I think. That could have certainly gone a lot worse. So let's see, therefore, if we can solder it in place. If we can, then hey. What we'll do is, once we've done, we will gloop the back of this with the conformal coating just to make sure that nothing moves or flexes. But there's only one way to find out, isn't there? Let's try solder. I think the nice thing is that because of the way we've done it, we make sure we get everything lined up and we go in and we push the port in flat. It's like the port has sat on top of the pins, so it's not brushed against them and it's not moved them sideways. So hopefully this is going to go pretty well, because I was expecting this to be a full-on port rebuild. Anything less than that is going to be a real old bonus, I can tell you. So let's start over here. Normally I like to drag solder these, but that's not going to be possible on this board. So we do want to be mindful, we do want to be careful not to I'm knock these pins sideways. Because we haven't got any space to knock them sideways. If we do that, we'll be bridging into the neighbouring pin. Remember, these pins aren't stuck in the board, so one false move here means we're rebuilding this entire header. And I don't really want to do that if I can help it. But it's a big job. It's not a particularly pleasant job. And like I said, it's expensive. And with this being a business-to-business repair, I'm sure they're going to want to try and keep the costs as low as they can. I suppose when you've got to make good a customer's board, you don't really have much of a choice, but Let's take a quick look then, see what we've got. We haven't. I'm just going to clean this up with a little bit of IPA. Again, I'm going to be gentle because anything other than gentle on this board is going to result in a lot of damage. Especially if we have some pins that aren't soldered. I'm going to let the strength of the solvent do the work. I'm not putting any pressure on here. So the stuff we're using here is 99% proof isopropyl alcohol, or IPA. It's very, very good for getting rid of flux residue and the like. And because it's alcohol, it does evaporate off pretty quickly. Doesn't leave anything behind with it. The one thing I will say, if this does end up working, and it ends up working okay afterwards, is that a lot of this will be down to the fact that when they pulled the port and it lifted the pads, they didn't continue to lift. They knew what it had done and they didn't continue to pull at it. They just left it where it was. And there's a lot to be said for that, because as you can see here, that could be the difference between being able to salvage the board and repair it and having a very expensive, very complex and complicated port rebuild job having to be done on the board. This is one of those cases where when people say, well, I can't make it much worse, you really can. You really can. We'll just continue to secure these pins as best we can. And then we'll see with the multimeter whether we've been successful or whether we've had nothing but a big old failure. Now the one with the missing pad, is 6 pads in, I believe is a non-connected pad, which is why it's probably lifted out, because essentially all they've done is they're just epoxied into the board when it's manufactured. There's actually nothing tying that pad into the board. It's just there for apparently the HDMI standard for future expansion, but at the moment it's not used. So the pin still goes in, but it doesn't go anywhere. So I do believe that is that, which is going to mean we don't have to run a link wire for that one. It's just whether we now have done enough to salvage our HDMI port on our Xbox. So, exciting times. So, I guess what we need to do is get the multimeter out and see if that is indeed what we've managed to do here today. So, we've got a spare board. We've got a donor. And there's the pads on the donor. We've got the multimeter here. So we're just going to put the multimeter into continuity mode. Continuity mode is the mode where it beeps when the two probes are touched together. So if two pins have continuity, you'll hear a beep. Hopefully the microphone should pick that up. So once you do that, you get the beep. So pin 6, I'm going to measure pin 6 to ground and see if we get any reading on the multimeter. It's actually denoted, look, pins 1 through 19. So technically then this is 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. They are the other way around on the PS4 because the port is upside down on the PS4. You'll notice there's no trace of anything going to here. There's no via at the back, so this pad just looks like a non-connected pad. And sure enough, when we test it to ground on a donor, we get OL open line. So yeah, there's no connection to that pad, so we're quite happy there that that pad that we've got missing on our board we don't have to put back. So that's looking quite nice. So we have a host of other items on our board. So let's go and see then if we have what we need. So let's bring our board back in with our nice shiny new port on. this first pad here. Where does this first pad here go to? It looks like, can't quite see the trace because it's lifted out slightly, but it looks like it goes down here and in underneath this little 6-pin IC. So let's see if we get any continuity to one of these pins. We do. Pin 19 then goes to this first pin. Lovely. So that seems to be working. What we'll also, I'll tell you what we'll do first of all, just to make sure. We'll make sure we don't have any bridging. So if we have two pins next door to each other that read continuity, we know we have a short and we don't want shorts. So pins 1 to pins 2, no, that's good. Pin 2 to pin 3, no, good. Pin 3 to pin 4, no, good. 4 to 5. We have shorts on pins 4 to 5. Right, that's not good then. 5 to 6. 6 to 7. 7 to 8. 8 to 9. 9 to 10. 10 to 11. 11 to 12. 12 to 13. 13 to 14 doesn't really matter anyway, but 14 to 15 doesn't really matter. 15 to 16. 16 to 17. 17 to 18 and 18 to 19. No, so the only place we do have a short, and it's still not good, is pins 4 to 5. So pins 4 here. Pins 4 here to pins 5 here. And pin 5 looks like ground to me. Yeah, pin 4 is shorted to ground. Right, so it depends ultimately what's causing it to short to ground as to whether this could be a bit of a problem. So what I'm going to try and do is just, there's obviously no bridging visible on the board, so I know that. The pads look fairly straight, so I wouldn't imagine it's because the pads are touching each other either. It's a bit of a weird scenario, that one. Let's take a look further down here. So pins 4 and 5, let's just test that again. Four and 5 are definitely talking. Pin 4 goes down to one of these filters here. Pin 4 goes down to this filter here. So essentially that filter then must be shorted to ground. Now then, is it the filter that's shorted, or is it that we have a problem on our port? Let's lift that filter off and let's see if that makes the short disappear. Because sometimes these filters do go bad, so it wouldn't be unheard of. Oops. Okay, so we've lifted the filter off. Let's see, 4 and 5 are still not happy. The sound of silence. Nice. So it was indeed the filter. It is indeed the filter that's shorted. So what we need to get a donor. That could very well have happened during, because if you remember, the port that was on here originally was a real old mess. So it could very well be that that was done when the port was originally damaged. So that has indeed alleviated the short. I was going to say, because to look at it, I mean, pardon me. I was going to say, because to look at the actual pins and the, there's visibly no bridging there, and the pins look straight, so they can't sort of dogleg underneath the board, can they? So it made sense that something else there was amiss. Sure enough, it would appear to be that filter at fault. So let's get a new filter. Let's put the fume extraction back on for a sec. Just get this part off a donor. Just get a dab of flux on here. And we'll get that flowed into position. Lovely jubbly. So, we have our nice new filter. Stuck in place there now. So let's go back in with the multimeter, see if pins 4 and 5 still read happily. Hopefully they will. So we get one probe on pin 4. Oops. As you can see there now, no beeping. We like no beeping. So basically all our pins now test fine, so there's no bridging between the pins. It's just whether those pins are now talking to the places they need to talk to. So we'll get rid of the fume extraction again. And for what feels like the 50th time today, pull this headset off my face. Quick is still making a racket over there in the corner. Shut up, please. Lovely. Sound of silence. Right. So, basically, the differential pairs are on the left-hand side. So these go down to these filters down here. So they follow the trace. They go all the way down to the filter. One of which we've just replaced, and the other one. So let's just see here now. So we know we have no shorts between the 2 points. Let's see if we have any shorts at all on our board. So we'll just zoom you out there, see if we can get these in shot for you. Oh, probably just about. Probably just about. So pin 1 goes to this first pin here. You can hear there, pin 1. Pin 1 beeps quite nicely. Pin 2. Oh, sorry, no. Pin 2 is ground. Pin 2 is ground. So if we go, you notice that. I'll just zoom you back in. So you can see what I'm saying. You'll notice here, of course, you can see the traces. The differential pairs come out here. So one comes out here and one comes out on pin 3, pin 4 and pin 6, pin 7 and pin 9. So the pins in the middle of these differential pairs, so 2, 5 and 8, you can see there, there's another one there at 11, essentially just go to ground. So you notice there's no trace coming from them. So pin 2, for example. So if I touch the ground at the back of the port there, look, you see that reads a short, that reads ground, short to ground there, short to ground there. Now here's the thing, because if you're missing a ground pad of any description, you're not going to be too badly off, because it doesn't really matter. And pin 3 I think is also ground, or pin 17 in this case. HDMI standards are similar across the PS4 and the Xbox One, so there's a lot of similarities between the two circuits, including their ground pins, because a ground pin on a HDMI cable is a ground pin on any device. So yes, so anyway, let's go back to finding those differential pairs and just making sure those are connected. So we'll zoom you back out so you can kind of just about see the filter and the pin that we're trying to measure to. Okay. Okay, so it would be pin 3 to the second pin on this little filter. It does indeed. So pin 4. Pin 4 goes to the 4th pin along this filter. We do indeed have that. So yeah, just to recap, so pin 1 goes to the 1st pin on this filter. We have continuity. Pin 2 goes to ground. Pin 3 goes to the 2nd pin in on this filter. Okay. Pin 4 goes to the 4th pin on the filter. Yeah. Pin 5 goes to ground. Pin 6 goes to the 5th pin on this filter. Okay, so we have everything we need there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pin 7 looks like it goes to pin 1 on the other filter. Indeed it does. Pin 8 goes to ground. Pin 9 goes to the 2nd pin on this filter. I think I need to clean these multimeter probes. Have to bear with me a second. Okay, pin 10 goes to the 4th pin on that filter. If I can remember which one pin 10 is. There we go. Pin 11, I believe, is ground. Pin 12 goes to the 4th pin. I think these multimeter probes are buggered. Oh, now the multimeter's buggering about. Hang on. Honestly, you tried to do a job. Right, so pin 12. Yes, we have pin 12. Pin 13 then seems to come down here. If you can see that, seems to come down this trace through this via to the backside of this little component here. Looks like a fuse. Indeed. Okay, pin 14 we said is not connected. Pin 15 looks like it comes out of here to this trace and comes down here. So let's take a look. It does indeed. Goes to that first pin on this little 6-pin component. Does it? Does. 16. Looks like it follows a similar path. Comes down here somewhere. Let's just zoom in so we can see it a little bit better. Can't really see where it was. So 16 seems to come alongside it. It's buried under some flux, so it's kind of hard to say. Let's try and give that a little bit more of a clean off, so we can kind of see it better. So that was pin 16, wasn't it? Seems to go to that end pin. So 14 there, 15, so that's 16 here. Pin 16 here seems to follow the trace all the way down to this end pin on the second little 6-pin IC. Indeed it does. Pin 17 will be ground. Pin 18, where does pin 18 go? That seems to come down, that's pin 19. Where does pin 18 go? Pin 19 seems to come down here and goes to possibly the first pin on that 6-pin component. Does indeed. Pin 18. Where does pin 18 go? Pin 18. Okay, pin 18 goes to a via, which then goes through the back side of the board by looking at this. So pin 18 goes to a via and through the board. There's a little via, and I think you can probably just about see the outline of it. Here-ish. Just under there. So it kind of kinks this way and then goes through the other side of the board. So, yes. It's going to be hard to sort of quantify whether that's where it needs to be, but hopefully it will be. It seems to be solidly soldered. So we can leave pin 14. The others all seem to be where they need to be. They're all stuck there, solid enough. I need to straighten my microscope because it keeps going out of focus towards the edges of the picture. But they all seem to be in place. So we haven't actually got a machine. This one came board only, so we're going to have to put it in a test chassis. But we'll do that. We'll put it in a test chassis and we'll see if this fires up. We'll see what we get. So we'll just have a quick last tidy round of any flux residue before we do that. And then, providing all's well, we will we'll pop some conformal coat just over the back edges of these pads just to make sure they stay in place and that they don't lift out. They seem to be fairly solid, to be fair. They don't look to be in too much distress. Although somebody else might get a shock if they ever have to come to replace this HDMI port again. But yes, here be dragons, be warned. I know actually, to look at it now, you wouldn't actually know that it ever happened. You wouldn't have ever known, would you? If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes at the start of this video. I don't think you'd have believed me if I'd have said to you, yep, each and every one of those pads were lifted out of the board when we started this. I'm quite proud of that. I'll be even prouder of it if it works. So let's put it in a test chassis then, ladies and gentlemen. Let's fire it up and let's see if it works. Right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we have our motherboard assembled into a test chassis. It was sent up board only. So I guess the only thing left to do now is to power it up and turn it on. Now, obviously, because this is a board only repair, I'm not sure what to expect from this. I've never done a board only on an Xbox One before, so obviously we've no Blu-ray drive and we've no hard disk. So in fact what I've had to do is just prepare using the Xbox HDD Master version 5 script a blank hard drive. So we'll see what it does. I have no idea if it's going to try and boot, if it's going to go to Troubleshooter, if it's just going to show us E100. As long as it shows us something on the screen, we're happy. So without further ado, let's fire it up. And let's go up there and see what, if anything, turns on. Something's happening. Oh, yes. Yes, it works. Oh, fantastic. Oh my god, I can't quite believe that. I'm in shock, I think. There you go. Well, that's 1080p as well, so yeah, that's working perfectly fine. That's lovely. Oh, I'm chuffed to bits with that. So what have we done today then? Well, I can't quite believe it works. I'm absolutely speechless, but there we go. Essentially, what we've done today is we have taken a motherboard which has had a really sort of nasty HDMI replacement experience, and we've managed to somehow solve it without having to butcher the board in hundreds of link wires. Luckily, the shop which actually got this initially and did the initial part of the job by attempting to lift the port, at least once they realised it had gone wrong and that in fact, you know, the header was really badly damaged, they didn't continue to just pull the port anyway. They left it where it was. It had obviously swung back, you know, onto its rear legs. It had lifted the headers out of the board, and they just left it. They didn't try to rip it out. They didn't just think, oh, sod it anyway, you know, it's broken regardless. They left it where it was, and then they called us. You know, and we were obviously, hi Luke. There you go. That's Luke. He'll got that from Flash. So basically, there's some persistent settings in Flash. So it's gone to black screen. Now I don't know if I've actually got. Well, I haven't actually got the controller board plugged into it anyway, so we couldn't do anything with it even if we wanted to. But you can see there, it's booted. So as soon as that goes back into its proper chassis with its proper hard drive and its Blu-ray drive, it'll work absolutely fine. But yes, there is something to be said for that. You know, if you ever get yourself into such a mess whereby, you know, you can't actually continue with the job because you realise it's gone wrong, don't just push through and just think, oh, I'll take it out anyway. Because as you can see today, you know, from somebody who can, you know, who's experienced in the job, can actually still possibly rescue even the most dire of situations. And as you can see today, it's purely my experience has won through on that one. And it's got us back working again. So if you do it yourself, and of course you want to have a go and try to rescue the situation yourself, I mean, ideally what I would have liked to have done was epoxied the header back into the board before trying to resolder it. I have got some Circuit Works epoxy that I have in my bookmarks. I need to go and order it. That would have been really useful today. Unfortunately, we didn't have it. So, you know, we've still got to get the work done. We've still got to get it out the door. So the best way of doing it, of course, there is we just put some flux down on the header. We straightened the header out. We made sure that all the pins were flat and that they were nice, you know, and that they were going to be able to be soldered to. We flattened them to the board. We put some flux down on it. We brushed the pins forward rather than back against where they're broken, just to make sure they didn't lift or bend or stress any further. And then basically all we did, we applied a little bit of heat to make the flux go tacky, which was enough to hold the port, which was enough to hold the header, I beg your pardon, in place while we dropped the new port in. And because of the way we kind of have to install the ports in the Xbox One, the way I always do it is I get hold of the port in a pair of mole grips, as you saw. We put the front legs in first, and then we push the rear down and flatten it out. And as you can see there today, that's enabled us to actually get the thing in and push the port down on top of the pads. So rather than having to push against them and run it onto the pads, it's literally pushed directly down onto them. And of course, because we'd straightened them out and we'd kind of stuck them in position with the tacky flux there, we actually managed to get the pins nicely lined up and soldered on. It took a little bit of soldering because obviously we were trying to be really gentle with them and not push them out of place, but it soon became fairly apparent they weren't really going anywhere. And then we gave them a little bit more stick with the iron, and of course we managed to get them all to solder correctly. That 14th pin there that was lifted out was purely stuck into the board. It's an unused pin, so we didn't have to replace that, which was cool. All the other pads did rescue and they did solder, and as you can see, they were working perfectly nicely. I think it's time to close it up here and say thank you for watching. So hopefully you've enjoyed it and you found it useful. And it just goes to show, you know, that the thing can be rescued. Even in the most dire of scenarios, somebody with the experience can indeed rescue even the most arduous of circumstances. So, you know, that's what you've got to remember, is that it's not all doom and gloom. You know, if you have a go and you do that, it's possible you can still rescue it. You know, if you're not feeling up to the job, just find somebody who can. And you can see there today, it's perfectly possible to fix it. So thank you for watching. As I say, hope you enjoyed it, hope you found this useful. Please remember, if you did like it or you found it useful, to pop a like on the video. It helps grow the channel, and you know, I'll obviously thank you for it. It just goes to show, you know, that it just goes to show a little bit of appreciation for what we do on the channel, and it shows we're going in the right direction. If we get videos with lots of likes, we're happy, and it shows what we're doing here is worthwhile. So yeah, quick like down there. If you've any questions or any comments on the video, then feel free to pop them below. I always enjoy reading your comments, and like I say, you know, if you have any questions or anything, I'll do my best to get back to you. You can also hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @YTAndrewPaul. My DM box is open to everybody on there, so if you'd like to send me a private message, then on there it'll come through and it'll get read, and if I can help you out, I will. If you're in need of a repair yourself, whether you be a consumer or another business, I do work for other businesses too. As you can see, this one today is for another business, and you're based in the UK or the EU, then by all means drop me a message to that email address. It is again YTAndrewPaul@outlook.com, and it's in the description of the video as well. So obviously, if you find it easier to copy it than take it down with my Yorkshire accent, then by all means it's in there for you to drop me an email. And like I say, if you're in the UK or the EU, we happily take consoles, board only, whatever you like, and I'm sure if we can get them going, we happily will. If you're in the States, unfortunately shipping costs are a little bit prohibitive, but I can probably point you in the direction of somebody who can help you out. So feel free to send me a message if you need to. Likewise, we also sell and stock console components. So if you need a component, whether it be 1 or 100 or 1,000 or whatever, just drop us a message, drop us an email, and I'm sure we can hook you up for a very good price. We do ship components worldwide as well, so if you're in the States and you're in the need of components, then I can probably still help you out. So yeah, don't be shy, come and say hello. So thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. As I say, hope you've enjoyed it, hope you found it useful. I'm Andy Paul, you've been brilliant. From me, from the Xbox and that really nasty HDMI header that's all better and working again. It's bye-bye for now, and I'll see you on the next vid. Many thanks for watching then, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then why not check out these recommendations below. Also, please remember to comment, rate, and of course subscribe to the channel if you found this useful. We've plenty more content on there, and there's lots more to come.